Topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Texas and Virginia. We welcome you to another Ask the Experts show where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Today's show, our first show, we're talking about injuries, and I want to welcome you to one of the finest personal injury attorneys, Mark Underwood. Good afternoon, Mark.
How's it going, Steve? Good afternoon. Great to see you again, as always.
Same here. I got to tell you, trying to see how I'm going to do this. A friend of mine called me and said her best friend was in an automobile accident and she's been paralyzed. And she said, I don't know what to do. She's not happy with her attorney. And I said, tell her, don't do anything, that I've got the finest attorney and we're trying to get them together now. But, you know, sometimes people hire an attorney that they're not happy with and you can change. So we hope I know Mark will take great care of her. And today, Mark, because I ride a motorcycle, and all my friends get on me about it, but I wanted to do a show about motorcycles today.
Well, you know, motorcycles are a great way to live and a terrible way to die.
Gosh, don't tell me that, Mark.
You know, because the injuries in a motorcycle crash are almost always extraordinary. Of course, you know, some states have helmet laws, other states don't have helmet laws. And, you know, that may be as good of a place as any to start, right? So, you know, you ride motorcycles. Everybody knows that you should wear a helmet, but not everybody wants to wear a helmet because of a variety of different reasons. Number one, they're hot. Number two, sometimes they restrict your vision. Number three, they get heavy. And it's just, sometimes it's just not quite the way you want to feel when you're riding a motorcycle. But of course, they prevent head injuries. And the question I get all the time is, well, what if I wasn't wearing a helmet? Is that going to affect my case? And, you know, it depends on the state. We say that all the time. It depends on the state. But most states are going to be allowed, if your injury is a brain injury, they're going to be allowed to introduce evidence that you weren't using a helmet during the motorcycle crash. It's a little bit different than, say, seatbelt usage in cars. When you get into a car crash, not wearing a seatbelt, in a lot of states, the defense is not allowed to bring that up because that was part of a trade-off of mandatory insurance requirements. In exchange for the legislature enacting mandatory insurance requirements, they weren't allowed to bring it up in lawsuits. But that's typically not the case when it comes to a brain injury in a motorcycle crash.
You know, Mark, our show is running in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and in the Virginia area. Are the laws different between the two states?
It depends on. Many of the laws are the same, but yes, laws depend on what state you're in. And, you know, for example, both Texas and West Virginia have comparative negligence, but, you know, in Virginia, they have contributory negligence. And there's a big difference. Contributory negligence all the defendants have to do is put 1% of fault on you, and you're out of luck. In Texas and West Virginia, it's comparative fault. So they analyze the fault of all the parties involved. And in Texas, what they call responsible third parties, they allocate the percentage of fault between out of 100%, they allocate the percentage of fault between the parties involved, and you can recover if the fault of the defendant is greater than 50%. So yeah, it's different depending upon what state you're in.
Okay, so first of all, before we go any further, we've noticed that we're getting so many new listeners, mostly listeners, and you've been with us a long time, Mark. If you don't mind, would you tell people about your practice?
Well, sure. And let's go back to when we first got together on this. If you remember, it was right in the middle of COVID. I mean, literally,
yes, that's right.
Just a month or two after we all were ordered to stay home during COVID. And so, yeah, we've been at this. We've been through a lot of stuff now between
we have.
Between COVID and everything else.
How about that horrible shooting at the mall?
All kinds of stuff. So, my name is Mark Underwood. I have a law firm that primarily specializes in representing people that have been injured in accidents through no fault of their own. We stand up for the little guy typically. I have an office in McKinney, Texas. I also have an office in Huntington, West Virginia. A lot of people ask me, well, how in the world did you end up with the offices in those two places? Well, I'm from West Virginia originally. My wife is from McKinney, Texas. We got involved in a case down here in Texas called the West Fertilizer Plant explosion. And at that point, we knew we were going to be in Texas all the time. So we decided to go ahead and open an office in Texas. That was back in 2013. And we've been here ever since. We've handled, some disaster cases that are literally some of the biggest cases in the country. We've also handled just a small, regular old car wreck. We like to say, when disaster strikes, call Mark Underwood at Underwood Law Office. Best way to get a hold of me is 844-UNDERWOOD, or check us out on the web, www.underwoodlawoffice.com. How's that?
That's beautiful. Mark, I thought about you the other day because you've handled some really big cases. And I read where the president is finally going to go. Well, I think was it Ohio or Pennsylvania where the train wrecked out?
That was northeastern Ohio.
Ohio. Okay. So I read where the president, after a year, is finally going to Ohio. Are they still suffering down there?
I don't know. I followed that case when it first happened, but I don't know what's going on down there now. Typically, what we find in those types of disasters, you have, kind of the acute phase of a disaster. People are left homeless. They don't have anything but the clothes on their backs many times. And then about a year later to 2 years later, 3 years later, they're getting into fights with their insurance companies about payment for damages to their property. So I suspect up there in Ohio right about now, you've got a lot of cases involving disputes with their own insurance companies.
Well, I got to tell you, I felt so bad for those people, but I don't know why, because you have handled big cases. And for some reason, when those kind of things happen around the United States, I think about you because you're very well aware of those kind of cases.
Yeah, and they happen. There's 3 or 4 that happen every year, and you can only get involved in so many of them. So, typically while we have 3 or 4 going on, we try to limit ourselves to 3 or 4. We're close to getting to a point where we might get one of our cases, the Arkema case involving a chemical disaster in Houston, may get that resolved here in the next 6 months. Then we'll be looking for another case. But they happen all the time, all across the country.
Mark, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but I think he was head of the GOP or the Republican Party for Texas. I can't believe I don't remember his name, but he was in a motorcycle accident maybe 2-3 years ago. And I was shocked because I think he was on Interstate 35 and he survived it, which I was shocked about. Because usually if you're going that fast and you're in an accident, many times you don't make it, do you?
Well, I think your thoughts and feelings are about the same as mine. You look at motorcycle crashes and you wonder how people survived. And, a lot of times we start getting into, start looking at them. I remember a case I had one time where a reverend, a preacher, was driving up a country road. It was a Harley Davidson. And Harley Davidson had designed this particular motorcycle with a circuit breaker above the cylinder head. And of course, what do cylinder heads do? They get hot. And it caused the circuit breaker to trip. And when it did, he lost control and got hit. And we had a trial against Harley Davidson on the case. And, he died. And he was a preacher. You look at motorcycle crashes and the injuries are usually pretty bad.
Yes, I know. In fact, here in Florida, we have an older population, and that's what scares me the most because they'll just pull out right in front of you. Mark, what should a person do if they fall or they're injured on someone else's property or business?
Well, the first thing you really want to do in like a trip and fall case is report it to whoever, because you're almost automatically considered suspect if you leave the property and 6 months later somebody's making a claim on your behalf. The retail location wants to know, when did this happen? How did it happen? Who was around? Who the witnesses were? So, the best thing to do is to put them on notice of the claim. You might not want to go into a tremendous amount of detail about what happened, but at least let them be aware of the claim. Of course, you can't do that when you're in a motorcycle crash because, typically you've been in some really bad, you got those really bad injuries and you maybe going to the hospital in an ambulance. So, of course, a little bit different there also because, whoever hits you in a car or truck, they're probably going to be aware that they hit you. I mean, not always. I mean, it's possible for a truck to come over on top of you. I've had that happen to me in a car. It's possible for a car to swerve over and run you off the road and cause tremendous injuries. But, in a trip and fall case, you want to put them on notice. Motorcycle case, if you're seriously injured, I can get to a lawyer as fast as possible.
Yes. And Mark, a lot of people, believe it or not, still don't know or understand how you charge.
Well, we, personal injury cases, we charge on a contingency basis. That means you don't pay us unless we have a recovery. And if we don't have a recovery, you don't pay us anything. Typically, the contingency fee is anywhere from 25% to 40%. And depending upon the complexity of the case, the more complex the case is, the more experts you have to hire. The more experts you have to hire, the closer you're getting to that 40%. There are some lawyers out there that may charge 50%. We've never really thought that was something we wanted to do with our clients. But, so we charge on a contingency basis. And if we win, we get paid. If we don't win, we don't get paid.
Are motorcycle accidents, do you know, or how many people die from motorcycle accidents in Texas?
I don't have that fact right in front of me. It'd be, probably just a Google search away. But I suspect, well, maybe I'll type it in while we're talking here. But I don't know. What do you think, Steve? You want to throw some numbers out there?
You know what? Well, because I know when I lived in Dallas, there were so many people who rode motorcycles. And I was actually shocked about the amount of people who rode them. And then when you get a motorcycle, you even know it more because everybody kind of does the hand wave to each other.
Yeah. And everybody's, you're kind of you're a member of a group then, right?
Yes.
And everybody wants to talk about it. So, all right, Steve, what's your guess as to how many people die in Texas
On a motorcycle.
on a motorcycle? How many
would,
motorcyclist fatalities were there in, say, 2022? What's your guess?
Say,
Don't cheat. Don't cheat.
no, I'm just, you can see me. I would say over 2,500.
Okay. You are very close if you were talking about serious injuries. So there were 2,422 serious injuries on motorcycles in Texas.
Wow.
All right, but I'll give you a second try on the number of fatalities.
So I'd say 10,000.
Well, no, I mean, the number of fatalities are going to be less than the number of injuries, right?
That's right. Okay. I keep thinking because Texas is so big.
But there's 2,400 serious injuries. How many people died?
25.
562 in
Wow.
2022. So, you're looking at 20%. 20% are 20% of the serious injuries. 562 are people dying. So I guess really you got 2,422 serious injuries where people lived, then another 562 where people died. So about 3,100.
I
Really,
wondered how many of those were wearing a helmet, Mark.
Well, all right. I happen to have that fact for you.
No kidding.
39%. 39% of the motorcyclists that were killed were not wearing helmets. So, all right, 562 died. So almost 40% of those weren't wearing helmets. So you're talking about 220 were not wearing helmets when they died.
Are cases more difficult when it's a motorcycle versus an automobile?
No, I wouldn't say they're more difficult.
I think about all the people who have pulled out in front of me. Just, I don't know if they didn't see me or what it was, but it happens a lot.
Right. I wouldn't say they're more difficult, but I would say they're more expensive because you're going to have more experts due to the injuries. I mean, the injuries typically are going to be severe. You might have a life care planner who's going to come in and testify as to what the medical care costs for the motorcycle rider are going to be for the rest of their life. You might have an economist that has to tally all of those items in a life care plan up. You might have an economist that has to reduce it to present value. You might have some specialized medical treatment, rehab at, you're quadriplegic. You might have to have rehab at a rehab hospital, and somebody's going to come in and testify. What does that entail for this person? So they may not be more difficult, but they can certainly be more expensive.
Mark, before we get out of here, I've got two people with basically the same question. Interesting questions. First of all, they want to know if you do wrongful death. And if you do, what about people who died from COVID?
Well, yes, we do wrongful death cases. Depending upon how they occurred, wrongful death is kind of the result rather than the way it happened. You talk about, it's typically a negligence cause of action resulting in wrongful death. So arising from COVID, and we've done some shows on this, right? they're on our podcasts. COVID, there are so many different things that could go into that. So, and it's so difficult to prove that, this is the main problem with a COVID case. It is so difficult to prove how you got it. I mean, did you get it while you were at work? Did you get it at a doctor's office? Did you get it from somebody that lives with you? Or did you get it while driving to any of those places? So it's, you have to prove causation. So proving causation in the COVID cases are extremely difficult. I mean, I think we decided 4 years ago at this point, that the only way you can get it, about the only way you can prove it is if you worked in a really closed environment and you were not exposed to it from any other set of circumstances. So the short answer to the big question is we probably don't do COVID cases, but we haven't done a COVID case because we've never been able to establish causation. Now, that's not meant to say that it's impossible to prove causation, but that's where we are. Better question is, would we do a disability case based on COVID? Well, sure. Yeah, we would do a disability case based on COVID because you don't have to worry about proving, did you get it from where you work? Did you get it from home? Did you get it from the gas station as you were driving to work? There are some ways you can obtain compensation for COVID-related illness, for example, Social Security disability, but proving a personal injury case or wrongful death case out of COVID is extraordinarily difficult.
Mark, let's tell everybody how they can reach you.
Best way to reach me is 844-UNDERWOOD. That's toll free. Call us, 844-UNDERWOOD. Otherwise, go to the web, underwoodlawoffice.com.
I got to tell you, Mark, I love doing the show with you. You were so knowledgeable and you make everything that people can understand. Mark's with us every month. He'll be back with us again next month. If you, anywhere in the state of Texas, especially, if you're in an accident, you're injured, family member, Mark Underwood is the one you want to call. Thank you, Mark.
I appreciate it as always, Steve. Have a great rest of your week.
You too, bud.
Okay. Hey, thanks.
That's attorney Mark Underwood. He is such a great attorney when it comes to personal injury. We want to go to our next show. Our next expert is amazing. The way she explains weight loss, she's also does other areas of health, but she's one of my favorites because she's so knowledgeable, and the way she explains things. Let's go to Dr. Gamboa.
Hi, Steve.
There's that voice. I would know it. I'm doing well. I would know that voice from anywhere. How are you doing, Dr. Gamboa?
Good, Steve. Thank you for asking. How about you? How was your New Year's?
You know what? I think this is going to be a much better year, and we're going to make sure that people stay healthy.
Yes.
And you have a clinic. It's called Elite. And you know what? I love the name of your clinic.
Thank you.
It is Elite, isn't it?
Yeah, we try it as our best, so we try to give personalized care to patients, and that's what we are losing these days. So that's why I want to have a patient-physician relationship, because nowadays I feel that everything is like a transaction. It's more like a corporation, so I just don't like that.
I got to tell you, your personality gives you, I would say, a good bedside manner. You know, when I just feel people when they come to you, they feel comfortable with you. You don't talk over their head. And you know, I've learned, doctor, that your weight is so important,
Oh yeah.
and it can lead to so many health issues that people. It's not just about looks. It's not just about cosmetics.
Exactly. And unfortunately, the insurances don't see it that way yet. Not even like Medicare. That's what we're fighting for. If Medicare sees the obesity as a chronic disease, as they should, then many other insurances will cover more and more the weight loss medication. So we are trying, we're fighting. We want Medicare to start covering weight loss medications. If anyone is listening, please like call the senators, call your representatives,
Yes.
and please like ask them to have Medicare, because there's so many people over 65 that they are obese, that they are overweight, and because of that they have prediabetes, diabetes, obstructive sleep apnea, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, and going on and the list. But if Medicare would please cover this, then it will be better for everyone. And then also like all the other insurance companies will start covering it more for the patients.
I couldn't agree with you more because I don't understand because I've learned because I have sleep apnea and I have kidney issues that it's all weight related and there's diabetes, there's other
Yes,
heart condition. And it just seems like if insurance companies would cover that, it would cost them so much less down the road.
exactly. And that's what they are not seeing it in the long run. They're not seeing the big picture. And again, please, anyone that is listening, call your reps and push for Medicare to cover all the weight loss medications. That will definitely make a big difference in the patient's quality of life, health, and it's going to be much better.
You know, tell people about your practice. How long have you been practicing and what areas you specialize in?
Steve, my clinic, I am a family physician and did some training for hormones, and also I am a diplomat of the obesity board of medicine. And I've been in practice for quite some time now. Like I graduated from like my family medicine residency back in 2010. But way before that, I was already a physician. So yeah, it's been a
Well,
long
if you're
time.
not watching on TV right now, she looks like a teenager.
It's funny you say that. It was very interesting whenever I was in training, because they always thought that I was the student and then the student was the attending. So it was all the way around. And I was like, okay, if you want them to treat you, that's fine. But he probably is going to be like, just like, be practicing in you, you know, it was very funny.
Yes, I can imagine. Well, since your last show with us, and by the way, Happy New Year.
Same here.
So, everybody wants to know about these injections and which ones are good and which ones aren't. And no one would know better than you.
You know, like nowadays there is one more injection in the armamentum for the weight loss fight, and it's called Zepbound. So basically, like if you remember last year, there was the new kid on the block that was called Monjaro, and everyone was on Monjaro. So basically, Monjaro had only the FDA approval for diabetes, so we were not able to marketed as the same for weight loss. So now, like it has the FDA approval for weight loss, and they have to change the name, so it's called Zepbound. But it's the same, like the same two peptides that are in this injection. And the other one is Wegovy. It's still the one of the like very first great injections for weight loss as well. The difference is as like with anything, you know, like technology like gets improving. Like first it was one peptide, now it's two. So like with anything, everything gets better and better and better. So, but both of them, essentially what they do, they're going to suppress your appetite. They are going to make you feel fuller. And also they are going to help internally with the secretion of insulin, they're going to tell your liver, hey, let's make less sugar. So everything to regulate internally the glucose, the insulin, that those are the culprits to cause any problems inside you.
I've got about 8 or 9 people that I know who are doing the injections, and every one of them, this is surprising, every one of them have lost at least 25 to 30 pounds.
Yeah, like like the studies show like a stunning like 20% for this newer one. It was like the other ones it's 15%, but between 15 to 20% in the studies. But honestly, in real life, also if the patient is motivated and eating healthy and exercising, then they are able to lose more than that. And I've seen it, like I had patients that they were in their 300s, they lost like 70 something pounds. And the good thing is that whenever they see this weight loss and they feel motivated, and also like they are able to get rid of some of their medications. This patient had 3 blood pressure medications and now he's on none. So some patients were using the CPAP. They lost a significant amount of weight and now they use nothing.
Wow.
So those are the beauties and the advantages and the health benefits of weight loss.
Well, what happens though when somebody goes off the injection? Are they going to gain all the weight back?
Yes, Steve. Unfortunately, what happens is we have to start seeing the obesity as a chronic disease. So if we see it as a chronic disease, we cannot just look for a momentarily treatment or like a band-aid. We have to treat it from the core. So if it is a chronic disease, we have to expect being in these medications for at least some time. It's like diabetes, like high blood pressure.
Right.
But if like with the time we're able to get to your healthy weight and hopefully we're able to reset your metabolic point, then hopefully with all the healthy eating, exercise, we're able to maintain your weight, and maybe we can like stop using these medications in the long run because we kind of reset that metabolic set point and retrain your body and you're just like eating healthier. But because of genetic problems, we may not get to that point and you may have to need these medications for a long run, for the long term.
What, Dr. Gambo, what bothers me is I'll just use GNC as an example. You walk into GNC and you say, I want to lose weight. They don't do any history and physical on you. They just hand you a pill. And everybody's body is different. Everybody reacts to things different. I like the fact that you're an MD and you're going to find out what the problem is first before you treat it. You don't just hand somebody a pill.
Exactly. You have to see what is like causing this. Is it like a part of like culture? Are you having a lot of anxiety? Is that causing
Yes.
or driving you to like go and eat? Because there are people that whenever they have anxiety, some people stop eating and they lose weight. Some people gain weight because they start eating because of the anxiety, And also we have to look at this as a addiction, because what happens is that we also have a portion in the brain that is the reward zone that every time we eat, it triggers this nice feeling sensations. And that's why there's a lot of what you call association between the food and then how the good feeling and how you feel. So that's why there's some medications too that they're not the famous injections, but they are really great medications that they target this reward zone and they help you with the cravings and this anxious eating that sometimes we have. So that's what helps, and that's why you need an MD or a patient or a doctor that is trained in obesity, so they can guide you properly. They can see all of your like problems, see where can we go, because again, we are not all the same, and one medication may not work for everyone.
Right.
I had patients that even with these great injections, they were still not able to lose weight. Like we had to attack first the anxiety and all these other problems, and then they were able to start losing weight. But we have to figure out what's triggering all this.
Well, we know stress causes people to gain weight. How do you treat stress?
Like whenever like we see it as like, yes, it can increase the cortisol is going to do all these other problems, high blood pressure, the insulin, all this cascade of events. So basically we have to see where the stress is coming from. Is it coming from the family? Is it coming from your work? Is it coming from you not sleeping well, from your having? So there's so many things that we can, that's why we have to have a good patient relationship, because we can ask you questions. We can see how you feel. It's not only, as I said, like not going to a vending machine, click two numbers, pay for your medication, and then get your injection, so, and that's it. But we have to figure out what else or how else we can help you.
And the sleep is very important too.
Oh, for sure. People, it's a vicious circle. Like you say that, yes, obstructive sleep apnea is a consequence from obesity, but then it's like first is the chicken or the egg too, because if you don't sleep well, then your hunger hormone increases in the morning. So then you are eating more. So again, one feeds the other. And also people that suffer a lot is from people that they have this working shifts at night. So they are the ones that they have all this circadian cycle distortion, and they have all these problems too, because of their cycles of sleeping are completely reversed, and they don't sleep well.
People always say one thing is more important than the other. One people will say diet is more important than exercise. Then there's others who say exercise is more important than diet. What's your feel on that?
I think that both of them are the pillars for a healthy lifestyle and eating, because one cannot do anything alone. Both of them work together. Because if you only do diet alone and you don't do anything, you're not like doing resistant exercises to like make your muscle, then you're going to lose weight, but you're going to lose muscle mass. And if you don't have muscle mass and you have more fatty tissue, then you're going to go into a circle of insulin resistance. You're not going to like doing well. So they have to go together. You need muscle to maintain your weight. You need healthy eating to, again, be a healthy eating. So you cannot just do exercise and not eat well. So both of them just go hand in hand. You have to do both.
Absolutely. I'm getting back to the injections. By the way, is Pfizer, do they have a new injection out now?
From Pfizer, like no, like that I know of. Like
I heard they were working on a new that it was going to be strictly for weight loss. But getting back to injections, some of the letters we're getting, people were concerned because there's some stuff out in the news that people have had side effects. Can you tell us about the side effects, and are they rare or what?
Well, the side effects have always been there. These medications, these injections, either in their like first, like let's say like versions where are out more like probably close to 10 years now in the market. Like they were like the first generation injections that they were once a day. First they were like twice a day, then once a day, then once a week. So we've been having this side effects all the time. The difference is that you have to go to a person that is knowledgeable on this, because we have to guide you. So you cannot just go again and just start on a higher dose because you want more weight loss faster. And that's whenever you get into trouble, because then you're going to have a lot of side effects. You're going to be very sick. You can end up in the hospital. If you don't know like what are the foods or what are the things that you cannot do with these medications, you can end up in the hospital with a severe pancreatitis. That is inflammation of your pancreas, that sometimes could be fatal. So we definitely have to start these medications on a lower dose, see how you do. We have to also change our eating habits. You cannot be eating the same way you were before the injections, because you're going to get sick. You're going to have nausea, vomiting. You're going to have diarrhea. Unfortunately, yes, like some patients, like again, like all these years that the diabetics were using these medications, they were having some side effects, but not the severe ones unless they were like sick or something happened, right? So like they're for the most part, well tolerated. But again, we just have to be cautious, like with anything. Even an aspirin can kill you. So we definitely have to be careful anytime we're with medications. Sometimes these injections are not appropriate for people that have history of a type of cancer in the thyroid called medullary cancer. They are not appropriate for people that they already had pancreatitis or inflammation of the pancreas. They're not appropriate if you are going to do a lot of binge drinking in the weekends. If like Monday to Friday you're doing great, but on Saturday you decide to drink like 6 beers or more all at once, then probably these injections are not for you, or you have to modify your lifestyle, because then you can end up at the hospital, and it can be very serious.
Yeah, we just had someone, a listener, love your show, Dr. Gamboa.
Thank
This
you.
is the third time I've listened to your show. She wants to know if she comes in regarding weight loss, she wants to know, do you do blood work first?
Oh, yes, for sure. So, like, whenever we have like a, a new patient for weight loss, then we definitely have to ask if they had a physical or if they had any kind of labs within 6 months. So why? Because I need to see how like your sugar is. Are you in the pre-diabetic range? Are you having kidney problems? Are you already having fatty liver or inflammation of your liver? So all these kind of things that are going to guide me to see what kind of medications you can get better with, or what can I give you or what I cannot give you. Once I have that, and of course, like your cholesterol, your thyroid, it could be that you started gaining weight because your thyroid was not working properly. So many things like that. So definitely we need labs first. And then from there we go, and then we talk, and then we see what's happening. What are your weaknesses also? Like how's your lifestyle? What do you do at work? All these kind of things that everything works together.
Well, there was a reason why I asked that, because from your show, we're starting to get a lot of chiropractors who want to come on the show and talk about weight loss. And as a doctor, as an MD, Dr. Gamboa is able to do blood work on you, which is so important. You got to find out what the problem is first before you start treating it. And I know for sure that chiropractors do not do blood work. That's just, so what we've done is, with the show here, because I, of all people, believe that weight loss is so important to your health, that we have a doctor like Dr. Gamboa who's going to really start you on the right track. Now, how hard is it from keeping people from backsliding?
Well, all depends on, again, you helping me, like modifying your habits, because it's like with anything, like I can give you the best medication in the world, but if you don't help me and we are not in the same page, it's not going to work. And I had a few patients like that they were on the best injection. They still couldn't lose weight because they didn't change their habits. They were still eating chips whenever they were not hungry. They knew they were not hungry, but they were still eating because they were used to that. Or they were like working with their bag of chips and they were not hungry, but they were still eating them. So many things like that. So we definitely have to improve our habits, because, again, if we stop cold turkey these medications, yes, you're going to, and also you're going to regain it, not because of the medication. You're going to regain the weight because of your natural way of your body. It's called metabolic adaptation. All of us, we have that mechanism, unfortunately, from our ancestors. And what does this mean? It just means that your body doesn't like to lose weight. Your body, yeah, your body gets angry because you're taking away his savings, and the savings for your body is the fatty tissue. So every time we lose weight, your body gets basically offended. It's like, hey, give me back what you took from me. And then it's going to decrease your metabolic rate. It's going to increase your hunger. It's going to decrease your satiety, everything in an effort to regain it back. And that is the problem that we have to fight back with the medications. So,
Dr. Gamboa, there's a lot of bad advertising out there, bad education. Just one example, there's a spray, you spray on your pan, and it is a better choice. And it says 0 calories on it. But if you read the label, it says less than 1 second. Well, you spray that pan for less than 1 second. Of course, there's not going to be any calories. So here's people normally, spray the whole pan, right? And it's no longer 0 calories. So you're also fighting a lot of bad education out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's called marketing, like Steve, you know how that is. And I always have to like train and teach my patients how to read labels. And because sometimes the one that says 0% fat, it's not necessarily the healthier choice, because
Right.
if it's no fat, that means no flavor. So if that's no flavor, then they have to add the salt, they have to add the carbs, they have to add something to give this 0% fat or like fat-free food to taste good. Otherwise, no one is going to buy it. So a lot of the times it's better to just buy the regular stuff or look at what is lower carbs instead of just buying the fat-free, because you're always going to have more of other stuff that you don't want either, that's
Right.
not healthy. And you're thinking that you're doing great by doing the 0 fat or fat-free, but in reality, you're not. You're the same.
Dr. Gamble, how do people get a hold of you?
They can call my clinic at 469-947-6020. We are here in Las Colinas, Irving, and it's Elite Care Clinic.
Do you also do telemed?
We do telemed. It's a little bit more limited, like it was in the pandemic, because again now like it's being more like a state. So I can still see you within the state of Texas, because I can only prescribe in Texas. But also, let's say if I see you one time here and then later you're out of state, I can send you like medications here in Texas, and you can request the transfer to your state, because I cannot prescribe anywhere else.
Dr. Gamble, thank you. You are a world of knowledge. Dr. Gamble is with us every month. She's with us the last Wednesday of the month at 4:25. We so appreciate you. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Boa with Elite Health. That's it for us today. Everybody have a wonderful week and weekend. We'll see you next Wednesday with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.